So look, without getting too emotional, the viewers won't know this, but
are you going to cry?
Well, I might. If there's any chance of me crying, it'll probably be with you, because you genuinely kind of started my career. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this story, but I really remember this. You wanted me, you were kind of facilitating me working with Sarah Dunlop, and you basically had this really big beauty campaign for Olive Olay, and you knew that I had no experience, because I was a high risk, long shot sort of thing. So you didn't really know much about me, but you knew that Sarah wanted to work with me, and you as we'll get into. I
loved your work.
Well, as we'll get into, you're very good at spotting, potential. And you gave me a shot, and this is something that I've never forgotten. Basically, what you did was you didn't book another DOP for the job. You left it until it was too late for the agency to get hold of the DOP that they wanted, because I think they wanted Carl Oscarson or someone, and then they had no choice but to go with me, and that started my career.
Well, that's how much I love you, because I love Carl.
Yeah, really.
I worked with Carl loads, didn't I?
Yeah.
And still would. I mean, he's an amazing DP. Funnily enough, they're some of my most favourite DP, like Scandinavian, Icelandic. I don't know if it's the light from those countries, but they've just got the most beautiful attention to detail and a kind of organic delicacy to their work. It's just beautiful.
I totally agree. I think it's like they have a sensitivity to light that not everyone carries with them, and they have this kind of connection to nature that's part of that. I think part of that.
Yeah, Swedish, Norwegian, Icelandic DPs, incredible. Yeah.
I mean, they are.
And the light in those countries, amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like they sit around as a child and just watch the light change and then study it for the most of their childhood.
And they've got light for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah, and also to work with them as well, they're really mellow people to work with.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just really gentle souls. Yeah, so I completely understand it. So that makes it even more, like, because I'm not that. I'm like the South Londoner from Croydon who kind of got lucky, basically.
Well, okay. I mean, look, there is an element of luck, because you can make your own luck, but it's a lot of hard work, and you were very passionate, and the work that I saw on your reel at the time was amazing. And let's face it, Sarah's reel, I knew she was good, but I didn't show her reel. I knew her reel wasn't the potential of her, and so I started again with her.
So how this leads us on brilliantly to our first question, which is how do you spot talent in a director? What are you looking for?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many things. It's very different. It's an individual thing. I don't think I couldn't pinpoint it.
Is it a feeling you have for someone? Is it like...
Yeah, there is a style. There's definitely a style that look, that there is so much great work out there, and a lot of people will obviously, be influenced by other people's work, but it's what they bring to it themselves, and you can just see that there is something within, like Seb, for instance, when he was young and wanting to go into film school and assisting directors, I just knew he had it. There's just something about the way that you interpret things, the way you see things, like an image that you will produce, or an image that will come to mind when you're speaking about something, how you reference things, and your attention to detail in the things that you see. So I think that you can see that when you're speaking to people and see the work that they've done, so with Sarah, her work wasn't great, but I knew that there was something there with her, because there were moments, obviously there was films that she'd done for herself that you can see that there are elements in there that sparked something that you knew they had something.
Yeah,
and then it's the nurturing, isn't it?
The nurturing,
and guiding them.
Yeah.
And helping, when you're then within an industry that you are being paid for to do commercials. I mean, we're not making art or films, and a lot of you guys love to think that you are, but you're not all the time. You are dealing with somebody else's money, and we're servicing for them. And that's not the right word, but
facilitating.
We're producing their idea for them. We're making an idea that they they believe in,
Yeah.
we're bringing it alive, aren't
Yeah,
we? But
yeah.
we're being paid to do that.
Yeah.
So there is an element that you are having to work alongside them. As it's a team effort. You can't just grab an idea and run away with it. So you have to work alongside your agency and your clients, because if we produce something that we love and they don't, you haven't done your job properly.
Is this a lesson that you find that most young directors that you work with need to learn, or do some of them have?
No, some of them definitely have it from day dot.
Do you think nowadays
have to help them with that?
Do you think that now that people have become more aware of the process and our role within that process?
Gosh, I mean, I don't know. Look, I haven't produced. Well, I am still producing, but we're facilitating now. So I haven't actually worked in the UK production film industry for like 8 years now, because Madam changed. We were always very traditional production company, but now we facilitate work here in the UK for overseas productions.
So could you explain a little bit for our viewers about the difference between being a production company, a traditional production company, and being a facilitating company?
Yeah, well, a traditional production company is, every country has a traditional production company, and you work alongside advertising agencies in that country, or indeed from abroad, and normally you would have a roster of your own directors that you represent. So when an agency is looking, they've got a script that's been written by their creative team, and their relationship is with their clients, and then once that script's been written, the TV department within the agency will take a look at it, and either the creatives will say, I want X, Y and Z to see this, or they'll say, can you come up with some suggestions of directors to show this idea to, and then the production company will be phoned up by the agency, and they will be given the script and say, can you show this to whatever director, and then that director will go into the agency and pitch on it. So each director, they might have 3 or 4, or these days it is more, but back in the day it was generally like 3 people bidding on a job. So each director would come at that idea with a very different approach. So we as producers would go in with an idea and to say to the agency how much that idea would cost to make their idea. So, but now, and again, each country has a service company, because if you need to go abroad to film, you need a company on the ground in that country to facilitate that job for you. So that's what Madam does now. So we don't represent any directors, but because our background is from production, we can help produce.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can step in if like a company can't afford to send a producer here, I can step in and work alongside their director. Because everyone's global now. Some agencies might be in America and their director might be from Sweden or the UK or wherever.
So the main difference, would it be you don't have to look after a
don't have a roster of directors anymore, no. So for me, I suppose the sad thing is, in a way, is that you're unable to nurture young directorial talent, but I can still nurture young heads of departments. I can still nurture DPs, absolutely, because from us, and I'm very proud of this, that a lot of our clients will come, and as you know, directors like to travel with their DPs. That is their right-hand man, woman. They don't, they get a bit nervous working with people that they don't know. However, we have got a solid reputation, and a lot of the production companies will ring up and say, look, we can't afford to bring a DP, can you suggest someone? So it's always really lovely when that happens, because obviously we've got an amazing pool of talent in this country. I mean, I am so proud of the crew that we have. The level of technicians in this country is second to none. It's amazing. It really is.
I don't think people fully understand that, actually, that we have because we have that history of filmmaking that it's even with America, who is obviously masses of studios, but they have twice as many people on set. Obviously they've got some great talent there, but for me, I mean, here, Australia, Canada, some of the most incredible people I've worked with. So you don't have the roster of directors, but you pretty much take care every other aspect of the
absolutely.
filmmaking
So
process?
you still facilitate the job. So you literally, you find the locations or the studio. If they need cast, I'll do the casting here. Sometimes they bring cast with them, and I put all of the crew together.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly the same. It's a very similar role. You know, you do have a service hat and a producer hat. You know, with the servicing hat, I don't get involved as much with the creative, which I miss occasionally. But as I said, we do get asked to produce. So I step into that role. And now, you know, the world has changed. You do not need to belong to a traditional style production company to get work. There's lots of freelance directors out there now who are getting work themselves, but they sometimes, you know, need a company like Madam or, you know, experienced producers to help put that job together for them. And of course, you know, we still know people within the UK industry. So, you know, how you get work these days is very different from how it was 10 or 15 years ago. You know, the kind of goalposts have changed, and you hear this, like, you know, clients doing direct work, or, you know, young kids coming out of film school. You know, they can do small, low budget jobs quite easily, whereas, you know, 10 years ago that would never have happened for them. So even though it's a very difficult industry to get into, there are other ways that you can get into it now than
there was traditionally.
It was much harder. Even for me, you know, as a girl, you know, we couldn't even be a runner because that was seen as a boy's job. Cause we, you know, we couldn't lift camera boxes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the origins of the beginnings of how you got into the industry.
Well, when the dinosaurs roamed.
So what did you? I don't even know this actually. What did you start? How did you first
reception? That was the only thing you could do as a receptionist.
And who were you at reception?
Well, I started in an agency actually. I lied about my age. I went to work for a company that no longer exists with a very junior creative who, you know, is now, you know, very well known and what have you. But I went to work at a place called Charles Barker, which was an advertising agency. And
did you know then that you wanted to get into advertising? Was it a conscious move to get into advertising?
Production for me, yes, from school, but it was theatre actually, not. Right. I didn't know the world of advertising really then. I mean, I was only 17, and I was living in London, and I blagged my way into a agency, and realised that actually it wasn't the TV department within the agency wasn't really where I wanted to be. It was where they were sending the scripts to. So when the boys wrote the scripts up, and then, you know, they came into the TV department, as I was saying earlier, then the producer would send them out to production companies. That's where I thought that's where I need to be.
And why did you think that? What was that?
Because I wanted to work with the directors. I wanted to be involved with
process.
With the process of filming
the making process.
And being on set and working alongside directors.
And did you ever have an aspiration to direct yourself, or did you always want to work with directors, nurture creative talent?
Never. Always producing.
And do you think that's an instinct from your childhood? Were you always a kind of a sort of person that would nurture, you know, were you always empathetic?
I think it's just more of an organisational thing. Even with the plays at school, I would help the production side of it. Yeah. So I had always, been
interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I don't do in front of the camera, do I? I do behind, but I've allowed you to because I trust your lighting.
Thank you. And you do look lovely, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. So you always, in a way, you're always kind of suited to be a producer.
Always, I mean, it's funny. I have only, you know, recently thought, I wonder what it would have been like to have done it. But no, I love it. I love watching the directors that I work with. I love them and they're brilliant. And I don't have all of that skill set, and I don't want that skill set. My skill set is mine, and I love being in the background and getting it all organised and helping in any way that I can, not just with the practical process, but with the creative. I know I'm a creative producer. I know that you working with me as a director of photography, you know that I will give you everything that I can, as long as I know that it is really making a difference. When I put my foot down with you, as you know, is when you're banging on about stuff maybe and there's lots of kit, and is that really going to make any difference? And I make you sit down and I ask you, though, do you really believe that this, which is if it's going to cost, you know, in excess of what we have, or it's going to impact on the time, if you can give me a great argument as to why you need it, then I think 99.9% of the time I've supported you. But if that isn't there, then you yourselves have said to me, yeah, you're right, I actually don't need it.
Yeah. Well, that process of being kind of forced to really think through exactly what you're doing is a really healthy process.
Yeah, it is, and it pushes you guys. It's easy to have every light available. You know, we should be able to make things look great, but you know, it's when you're challenged a bit. And I think you shouldn't let go of that. You should always, on every job, have that. You know, and
constraints can be your friends. In a sense,
absolutely. And it keeps you, you know, kind of
match fit in a way.
Well, motivated as well. It's like it will become a little bit maybe mundane if it. I mean, look, every job is different, as you know, so it's not about it becoming mundane, but it is. It's keeping you on your toes, and also, you know, not getting a little bit maybe complacent and lazy, because technology today is so far superior to what it was back in the day, and learning how to, you know, readjust when you haven't or can't afford certain bits of equipment doesn't mean to say you can't get that shot.
Yeah. Speaking of the transition from, you know, like the new technologies, and transition in particular from film to digital, for example, when the monitor came along and all of the agency and the clients stood around the monitor and we had to say, that's exactly what you're getting, did you find that completely changed the way we worked? Do you have any...
No, because I don't think it is exactly what they're getting, because all the monitors are set at different ways anyway, and it isn't. You would still, even if you're not, I mean, you would still, you know, change the look of it through the grade anyway. There is still a difference from what they're seeing.
But they are there's a lot more kind
information.
There's a lot more kind of creative involvement from, say,
it's
agency
only because
and
everyone
client.
thinks they know everyone else's job these days, which is a bit annoying. Because everyone thinks they're a director because they can pick up and film something on their phone.
That's right.
I mean, everyone can do everything. Doesn't mean to say you're any good at it, though. So that would always be my stance. It's like you're hiring these people and they're good at what they do. Let them do it. And I would always, you know, even now I do say on set, even if I'm servicing something, let them just get a flow with it. Don't, you know.
Don't interfere too quickly. Give them a moment before you start
filming
the notes.
I will do that if I can see that maybe sometimes, because I'm working with, you know, producers from all over the world, and a lot of the time I am more experienced. You know, I just have been doing it for a lot longer. There's way more younger producers around than there were when we, you know, were kind of starting
and
out.
Producers become producers a lot quicker with a lot less experience.
They do, and that doesn't mean to say they're not any good, but I think, you know, sometimes it hinders. I think, you know, the shame, the sad thing is that look, you know, I don't know, you can get someone cheaper, can't you, if they're a bit younger or what have you. But I think it's a shame if someone's really passionate about what they do, they'll take their time in getting to that role. I think, you know, there is no point in rushing things, because you either will burn out or you aren't great at what you're doing because your knowledge is just limited. And possibly it would be the most unenjoyable job imaginable, producing and not knowing what you were doing. I mean, oh my God, I'd shoot myself.
But I'm surprised by how many people are willing to take that risk now.
Don't know. Well, I don't know that world. It's not our world. You know, we are still very traditional. We still develop and bring up, you know, our crew and anyone working for Madam or office staff. We will train them in the way that we feel was right and how we were trained. And it's a slow process. What kind of
gives you your kind of network of contacts of crew and heads of department? What kind of range? You must have presumably quite a big network, and part of your job presumably is to fit the right team of people to the right project.
Well, yeah, the range is huge. I mean, like, it's every department from runners through camera assistants to, you know, first ACs.
And do you have a kind of process of knowing? I mean, because part of your skill is fitting the right people together, right? So in a way, you're forming teams, aren't you? It's what you did with me and Sarah. You went, these two are a good fit. Yeah. Let's let them run and see what happens. And I guess that skill is something you're still doing now.
Absolutely, yeah. So every job, you tend to look. There are a lot of people that I work with a lot because I have, and I'm very loyal, and they are very good. So there are hair and makeup and wardrobe girls that I've worked with for a long time, and no matter what the job is, they've got a very good range, let's say. But yeah, there are DPs that are very specific, let's say for cars, so I wouldn't necessarily choose the same DP for a car commercial as I would if it was maybe comedy or more lifestyle. So yeah, there is definitely a very, very wide range of top level technicians in this country that I know and have worked with.
Do you like to put a more experienced DOP with a young director? Is there any kind of formulas that you find work really quite effectively?
No, I remember saying though always, and I still say this today, only ask. It's not about. Well, this is a little bit different. It was about kind of doing a favour as a job, but only ask the DP that you would want to work with if you had the biggest budget in the world. Don't ask someone for a favour just because you don't think they're that experienced and they'll do it for less money. Yeah. You ask
always
people,
aim for the top.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But sorry, that wasn't actually answering your question. No, it depends. You were both quite inexperienced. Well, you weren't. You were both completely inexperienced. Yeah. Especially for oil of ole. Yeah. But that's where I have no fear. That was a big client. I knew though how to handle them, and I knew that I could look after you guys with it.
You gave me some of the best advice I was given in the industry as well. You said to me,
it was a big risk.
Yeah, you took a massive risk.
I did.
For me. Yeah. But I remember the advice you gave me because I had a young crew at the time as well. Do you remember? And you said to me, "You're an inexperienced shipper going to sea. If your crew's inexperienced, your boat will sink."
Yeah. No, you needed. Yeah. I introduced you to some, and that doesn't mean to say that the people that you were working with, you couldn't help them at other times as well. So look, you're a head of department. I don't normally tell you guys how to crew up. You know that. But yes, I did have to. I would lead the way if I was bringing in someone quite inexperienced. I would say to them, this AC is not. You need someone with a bit more experience. Yeah, you got me to help you, particularly with gaffers. I remember you introduced me to some of the best gaffers. Yeah, and that really helped me on my way. And I still do today with incoming DPs. It's the one thing actually that or one of things that has been amazing feedback from people are the DP saying that the gaffers were one of the best they've ever worked with. Yeah. And remember, our guys work across commercials, dramas and feature films. Yeah. And I know those guys, and I know they've got my back because I don't know the DPs coming in. Sometimes, and I've worked with people who have been very inexperienced, and the job has been saved by the gaffer. The gaffer, yeah. I think that's one of the things that people don't really understand, the extent to how often that happens. Yeah. Because I certainly think now this new generation of DOPs that are kind of the Instagram generation of DOPs that get in the game very quickly without that much experience. They're all obsessed with cameras and lenses, and they don't really understand lighting. Because I personally believe lighting takes quite a few years. No, absolutely. I honestly, and this was a big Vodafone commercial, so it wasn't something little. And this guy was absolutely out of his depth, but I could see that from his list to begin with. So that's when you team him up with an experienced gaffer? He was never going to get anyone other than one of my top guys who held it together for him, basically. But, unfortunately, I can't speed him up. And it was excruciatingly slow. Right. Yeah. But, as a service, it's not, that's more of a headache for the producer from the production company than me. Yeah. But he cost them. Yeah, interesting. I'm sure I cost production when I started out as well. Time-wise, no, not really, because I had I was in, I knew what was going on. I didn't let you. You might have been a little bit slower, but not to the extent that it cost me money.
Right. So let's go moving on then. So you started as a receptionist working for an agency, and then you had an idea that you wanted to work for production companies. And what happened? When did that change?
I started all again. I mean, I worked my way up. I was a PA, and then I went to work
now
as
for a production company.
In a production company, so I started again.
Yeah.
So I was most probably, oh gosh, I don't know, 19, 20 when I started in a production company, which isn't any longer. And then I went to work for quite a renowned director called Tony Kaye.
Yeah.
And that was
how
the beginning of...
How old were you when you were assistant? What was your role with Tony Kaye?
I was his
PA.
His producer's PA. Yeah.
Right. And did you go on to produce for him as well?
No, I didn't actually.
Right.
I didn't do anything for him. I produced for... I wouldn't have wanted to.
Right.
I mean, he was great. It was great PAing. But then he started me producing before I really wanted to for one of his other directors. So I produced for a director called Patricia Murphy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Back in those days, everyone was an independent advertising agency, and there weren't that many production companies. And the kind of directors that were around were people like Ridley Scott, Tony Scott, Paul Wayland, and a guy called Tony Kaye, who was quite an infamous director because he was quite a maverick, but he produced some incredible work. But he was quite out there, and he did American History X, so he did get into features, not as much as the other guys did, but he was he was an incredible director. And in actual fact, like really back in the day, because I think slightly, he kind of surrounded himself in the end with like sycophants, and it wasn't my thing. But anyway, really back in the day, one of the things that Tony, not apart from the passion, which I still have today, like 30 years on, I love what I do. And I'm still as passionate today about it as I was back then. And anyone who knows me knows that. And I saw that passion in him, and I loved it. And the other thing that he really instilled in me was finding talent from outside of the industry. So there's an amazing production designer called Russell de Rosario, who also does lots of feature films, but he was a young kid from art school, and he got into the papers because he graduated from Chelsea School of Arts, and he did some crazy like flyers. He got into the Sun because he put the Queen, he did something with the Queen and Sid Vicious, and it got into all the papers, and Tony said, go find him, I want to work with him. And he did, and he got Russell started. And Russell didn't really want to get into advertising, he was more into art, and I think it was because we told him how much he'd get paid a day. He was like, oh, all right, I'll do that. but he didn't know what he was doing, but he started, and I'm still working with him 30 years later.
You know who else I think it's got a connection to Tony Kaye? Your business partner Carly. She used to represent a director, Julia Jason.
She did. Well, Julia was with me at Tony Kaye's.
Ah, she was, was she?
She was there, yeah.
She wasn't
a director then.
She was an art director, wasn't she, for him?
She had lots of assistants. So back as well, I don't think feature directors will have them, but directors will have assistants. And I would say, if I had advice for any young, what do you call them now? Videographer?
Videographer, I guess, is a term of people, kind of one-man band. Yeah.
I would try and work with a director and assist.
Yeah.
Because it's still, I think, the best experience that you'll get. You get to work with a really, really talented, brilliant, passionate director. They can learn so much. That's what maybe, is sad, is that process might not really exist that much anymore. Not in commercials, maybe. Yeah. It does in features, obviously, but...
And when you say assist, what, as a PA, or as kind of what role do you think will be the best role?
It's their assistant, isn't it? Yeah. It's like helping, it's like you're working with them. You're helping them do their research, their you're just working alongside them.
So you understand the process of how someone would do it has a lot of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, I just don't know whether those roles exist these days, which is a shame.
It is a shame, and I feel quite passionate about this as well, because I think the whole model of the apprenticeship makes complete sense. Because if you take like artists, for example, you can go up and try and paint painting in your attic, but unless you learn from someone who actually knows what they're doing, that process is going to be a lot slower.
Or maybe, look, I don't know, maybe the people who are really talented will get there anyway. It's just a different path. It's just a shame not to have that connection, because it's not just about what they're in, it's not, it's taking things from people, it's moments in time, isn't it? And you can only have that if it's like a one-on-one, and it's a people skills as well, and I think that's a shame. In the same way that I think so many people email now, it's like, just pick up the phone and talk to me about it. And the best line of communication is direct, and I think a lot has been lost because of technology. So there's a lot that's been gained. So you guys have got platforms that were never available to us when we were kids. I mean, there wasn't even a university degree in filmmaking. It just wasn't, or even producing or editing. There's so many courses these days. They didn't exist back in the day. You did an art degree, didn't you, or photography? But so there's lots of pluses, but there are things that are getting lost, and I think that's a shame. I mean, I would love to, when I was 25 and starting out, I'd love to have had a mentorship from a DOP that really understood, that someone I could have learned lighting techniques from and set etiquette. I mean, for me, as you well know, the big thing for me, the learning curve for me, was how to behave on a film set, because I had no idea. And that took me a long time. Which you didn't seem to listen to. I know. Why did it take you so long?
I was almost kind of slow when it came to that. I
don't know what it was. You had an absolute... I don't know. You had literally a brick wall of certain things that I just couldn't get through to you. And I didn't understand. I knew you weren't, because at first I thought you were being, really just obstinate and a little bit like kind of manipulative in a way. I didn't get it because that wasn't your character. But you drove me mad.
I think
told
it was.
You that.
I think it was a kind of obsessive compulsiveness with lighting.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I was really sort of narrowly focused on one thing without seeing the bigger picture.
It
took me a long time to kind of pull back and go, oh shit, there's a bigger picture here. There's other needs on set, not just mine.
And I didn't get the fact that I've told you that once. Why am I telling you again? That I couldn't compute, because you're not stupid.
That must have been very frustrating for you.
It was. Well, you know that, because I used to shout
at me
quite a lot at you.
But it took me a long time to learn that. But maybe if I witnessed another DOP behave.
No, I don't think so, Ian. That was your way.
This is my way.
But you were so engrossed in what you were doing that it was lovely to watch. But then after a bit, it was like, you can move on now.
We're done. I remember what you used to say to me and Sarah all the time: this isn't your last job. You will work again.
And also, sometimes I would see you pick it apart. I'd see you build something really great and then start ruining it. It was like, leave it. It's fine now. You don't need to put garlic on those baked beans. Garlic has a place. Not on the baked beans. Don't need it on everything.
Good advice. It's also an artistic confidence, though, of knowing when to step away, like you said. Like now the way I approach things is so different. So in a way, my regret is not having the opportunities that you gave me at the start of my career now, because the directors I worked with at the beginning of my career.
But you must never say never. How can you say that?
You
absolutely do not know what's around the corner. Never say never.
That's true.
That's what's so beautiful about this industry as well. Each job is different. You learn something new every day, don't you? Every production. I'm always learning things still. I love that.
It's so alive, isn't it? It's
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Your career, as long as you're still in there and you're still going,
still in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, out of everything we've spoken about so far, this is probably the most inspirational point that we could make for the young kind of filmmakers coming up, is that we've been doing it for you've been doing it for like maybe 25-30 years now. And I've been doing it for maybe 20-25 years, and we're still as passionate about it now as we were when we first
look,
worked together.
some people may have that and they might not. Some people might burn out, or my daughter, for instance, bless her, she started on set and she was really honest about it and said, look, there are other runners out here and I can see how passionate they are and I feel bad taking the job from them because I just don't have that passion. And she didn't know really which area she wanted to go into, but she tried it and she's got a great work ethic, which I'm incredibly proud of. And but I think I do see, and I don't mean to be like I'm not generalizing, but there are some kids out there that don't have that work ethic. It's quite I think that's because I have done every role. I have been that runner on set, waiting for rushes, driving them up to the, they don't have to do any of that kind of stuff anymore. But they're late, but I'm there with them. Still. And I do see some of them are a bit like, why are we here?
For us, when we're selecting people for our crew, the one thing I look for is that ability to just work hard.
Absolutely.
It's just
and I still do roles that aren't necessarily my role as a producer, but if I see something that someone needs help with something, I'll do it. That's what you do, don't you? But
having that tenacity,
there is a bit of an attitude, and I don't know whether it is a millennium-y thing with kids, but when something's not quite suited to them, like, I don't want to do that. Because there's been too much choice. Been able to just stop things. In our day, you started something, you had to finish it. There was no like, well, I'm halfway through, I don't want to do it now. But there is a little bit more of that kind of attitude today. I've done that running bit. I did that. I want to be a third AD now. Well, you're not.
I mean, I think from my point of view, I think it took to master something takes about 10 years. I think Malcolm Gladwell had a 10,000 hours theory of he said that ability at the start of your journey is not actually that important. It's the willingness to do 10,000 hours. Even if you're, whatever it is you want, within reason, obviously you're not going to play for the NBA if you're 5'2" or something, but within reason, if you just stick at it. You
can jump really high.
Oh, exactly. You could be 5'2" and jump extremely high, and then you'd be amazing. But it's that ability to carry on with something until you get good at it.
Absolutely. You've got to see it to the end, haven't you?
So now let's go to when your first production company you set up was Brave Films, is that right?
It was Brave, yeah.
And why did you call it Brave Films?
Because the creatives used to kind of say that was a brave script, or and it just felt right, and we were brave, and we were only 26 years old. So from Tony K's, you're missing a little bit. So
you were 26 when you started that company.
Yeah, so from Tony K Films, I went to a company called Propaganda. So they were the biggest production company in America,
right?
And the first one to open their doors in the UK, and they had directors like Michael Bay, David Fincher, Dom Senna, big features guys who, well, they're now
and
features.
What was your role there? Were you PA?
I went in there, yes, as a production assistant, and also then they started, it's a very American thing, and we never had them in the UK because everyone knew each other, but they had what they call reps, directors reps. So you'd go into agencies and show directors work. But as I said, if anyone did that in the UK, they'd be like, it was a bit sad that you had to go and show someone's work because everyone knew everyone.
Right.
There was only a handful of directors.
That's really
But
interesting.
as the industry grew, reps and America needed reps because you were all over America. Well, in England, the industry was in Soho. I mean, but, in America, you could be East Coast, West Coast, and people would be getting on planes and flying,
Were you're still working in the UK now, were you? Or was this,
oh, yes, I never went to America. I didn't want to. Tony wanted me to go to LA with him, and I didn't want to do that.
And is that when you started working for Propaganda?
I regretted that a bit.
Yeah, it would have been a ride with Tony K.
Yeah, but I went, I did work out there. I did a lot of jobs out there.
Is that when Tony K was doing American History X?
Before then. That was in development. But that was in development for quite a long time, like a lot of his stuff.
Did he ever do his documentary on aboltion? Because that's something he was very passionate
did,
about.
and we prepped that, and also the Charles Manson. He did do that.
I remember seeing a documentary on him on TV. Do you remember what it was? Something for the BBC or something? When he did the Absolute Cirrhosis of the Liver with the Absolute Vodka campaign, with a picture of a cirrhosis, and I remember he turned to the camera because I think he took a shit in a gallery as well. I think he physically. Am I remembering this right? I hope I am.
I don't know. I can't remember.
He did some really crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, I know. When I worked with him, he was crazy. Yeah. But I love that because the work that he produced was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, we produced. I mean, even now they're iconic. If you look on YouTube and you see them, they stand the test of time. They're amazing commercials.
Do you think? Could you talk a little bit about what he was like as an artist? Because you know he was
passionate.
Just
amazing. He was passionate. He was generous with his ideas. You know, creatives used to come with ideas, and they became award-winning direct creatives. And it was his idea really. He changed ideas.
So he'd take a 7 out of 10 idea from a creative, and he'd improve on it.
And he'd make it 11 out of 10, 15, 20 out of 10. He was brilliant.
He just had.
But then the craziness became a bit of his. I don't know, it took over the creativity. Anyway, I left. I went to propaganda and I worked there for a couple of years. And as I said, they had all these big directors, but they also had some amazing talent, which they weren't really focusing on. And they rather than trying to let Propaganda UK build up its own reputation in its own environment, in its own culture, they tried to do it too fast, and they were all like the big guns coming into the UK, and it just wasn't the right way to do things. And at that time we thought we could do better, so I had a business partner then, and 26, and we left, and we took a couple of their directors with us, Alex Winter, who I'm still producing with today, 30 years on.
Is he freelance now, Alex?
Alex is doing mainly documentaries. He's just finished a Frank Zappa one, which is absolutely incredible.
That's going to be
You have to see it.
Yeah,
I love him.
Yeah.
But he's doing a lot of documentary stuff. I mean, he has just done another Bill and Ted's, which is quite funny. But he's mainly documentary, and we still work together, which is brilliant. And I will always want to work with him.
Yeah, he's a great guy, isn't he? Yeah.
I mean, he's like my brother. You know, he's an incredible talent. And he came, and Howard Greenhalgh came with us, and we found a director who wasn't known called Lucy Blackstad, and she was at the BBC at the time. And we started Brave, and we were 26, and we started with the launch of the National Lottery in the UK.
Really?
So we just hit and went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long was Brave going for?
Well, sadly,
7, 8 years, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was longer than that. I think it was about 10 years. And then my business partner and I went our separate ways. And Brave was really stayed the same. It just changed its name to another name. Yeah. But then it's all dissolved and not around anymore, which is a shame. It was a great company. And I left and I set up another company for a couple of years. But then I'd had enough, really. And I stepped away for a while. Yeah. Wrote a sitcom.
You wrote a sitcom? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the plot. And we filmed the pilot. It was great, actually. Joe Brand ended up getting involved. And that was a great experience for me. So, I had an amazing cast on it. It kind of went quite far down the road with ITV. But, you know, it was one project. You need a few projects. But it gave me a taste of TV and an amazing experience. And then from there I met my now business partners, Carly and Pippa, and you know Carly was running Crossroads, and I think she was a big influence on you as well.
She was.
And we about 12 years ago set Madam up, and Madam's still going
12
today.
years ago?
Yeah.
Christ,
I know.
I didn't realise it was that long.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we've been service for about 8 years.
So
which
the
is
first
just
few years
facilitating.
you had
we were a
roster.
production company. We had a roster, but you know the landscape had changed a lot then. And you know, back in my day, as a producer, you could bring up and coming. You could develop young directorial talent, and I think that's changed. You know, I think agencies or clients like to have a big director name in a company, and if anyone's going to do the nurturing, it kind of I think goes more through the director rather than the producer. But anyway, we did it for a while, but we were also servicing jobs, and those were the jobs that I was enjoying a lot, because I still do the producing side of it. So we said goodbye to our directors, and but as I said today, it's great because we get the opportunity to work with freelance directors occasionally, and
it's a kind of a win-win for you in a way.
It's amazing, and I've got 2 incredible business partners who inspire me on a daily basis, which I mean.
I was really pleased to hear you working with Carly. I thought that was just particularly from my experience of working with you, and then my experience of working with Carly. Well, that's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, well, I think you gained a lot from her as well.
A huge amount,
and at a time when we didn't even know each other. Yeah. So so it's interesting.
Well, you two, and Helen Langridge as well. I'd say
she was a great girl.
The 3 of you made the biggest difference in my career, starting with you, of course, and then on to Carly, and then Helen. But yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to think about it the other day. I was thinking, what was it? And I think it's an ability to see something in me that I couldn't see in myself.
You couldn't see that though for a very long time. That was the other very frustrating thing with you. Is literally I wanted to kill you on occasions. But I remember saying that to you a lot. Yeah. You couldn't see it.
Yeah, I had an insecurity that took a long time.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was a block. You literally have like a blockage, and it's impossible to get you to open that door.
Yeah, interesting.
But it didn't hold you back. You're very kind of dogmatic and very determined, and so technically you knew, and there's a creative element to you, of course, and those 2 things together, it drove you forward. But and what. The work that you were producing looked amazing. The style and the look that you had was absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure you still have that. I just haven't worked with you for a while. But your ability to stand back and almost recognise the fact that you came up with that wasn't there. People will get there. I was always going to get there. I was determined. I was never going to give up, and the work ethic was so strong that I just wasn't going to, and that you're going to get knocked down, but you get back up again, don't you? There is no other alternative. You had that. I was working very briefly though, because the job was postponed with a young DP that I hadn't worked with before, and he's absolutely blown me away with his passion and commitment. Yeah, I honestly, to the core of me, I love it. I just still do the same. There nothing in that respect has diluted.
Yeah, I can see that. That's really interesting and really beautiful, actually, to know that. Yeah, you nurture the people that have a passion.
Look, we're so lucky though in what we do. Look at the industry that we're in and the people that you get to meet and the places that you get to go to.
Yeah, it's extraordinary life.
It is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, I always remember going to countries through work and you get to go into people's homes. I mean, you don't get to do that on holiday.
Kind of access you get to a culture.
Incredible.
Yeah, working with for me, it's like working with local crew as well.
Yeah, because
you get accepted into a family, like on arrival to a country. And some of them, I mean, all my most cherished memories of being abroad are not holidays. It's all
working.
Shooting. Yeah, and the people you meet on the way, and like you say, it's these connections you make that are deep connections.
Yeah, and they're still there today. I mean, look, as I said, I'm still working with people that I've been working with for over 30 years. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. Especially when you're not, working with them because you happen to be in the same company, doing the same work. People go and they do different things. Like, people dip in and out. People go off onto a feature and might not see them for a year or 2, and then they're back. And life changes and people change as well, don't they? But it is incredible, and I do love that.
What's your most enjoyable kind of stage of a job?
That's mean.
Do you think?
I don't know. So many.
Is it booking crew and kind of assembling the family, or is it?
I don't know. It's the journey. Yeah. Sometimes I get all excited about doing a budget. I mean, that sounds a bit sad. I actually said that out loud. Yeah. Don't put that in. Or if you do, don't let Carly see that edit.
Right. Oh, really? Doesn't Carly do the budgets?
Yeah, no, we both do. Right. But to admit that we love doing them, would be a bit sad.
Well,
but sometimes I don't. It's the whole process. It really is, and it is. Yes, it's connecting with crew and getting them on board and talking to people about stuff, and not just my crew, suppliers. You know, we've got camera houses. There's you know, there's so many. The studios, your location people. You know, there's so many people. I mean, I miss the one thing in servicing. You don't get to like do any of the post-production, so I miss not seeing editors and the online guys and, you know, post houses, so that and sound and doing the music, so that's a sad part of it. But as I said, occasionally we are lucky enough that we're asked to produce things, so you know, we dip into that world, but not as much as I used to.
Do you find yourself getting pulled? You know, you mentioned to me a director that you work with who's a freelance director, and you started doing really well, young guy that you said worked 40 something days or something last year. The guy who did a car commercial with him recently?
Yeah, and I know who you're speaking about.
Do you find yourself kind of getting a bit broody and wanting to represent?
No, absolutely not. No, been there, done that. It's like having
Right.
children. I don't need them to be babies again.
Right.
You're all adults, and I love you.
Yeah.
And you can come around for lunch, and I'll cook you your lunch, and I'll treat you and spoil you, as you know. But after lunch, you can all go home.
Yeah.
Don't need to stay with me anymore.
Yeah.
I love you, and you know I'm here. You can pick the phone up. I'll always be here.
Yeah.
But you got to fly now.
So you're happy with where Madam is now then, and being
I don't know why I didn't do it years ago.
Right. Okay.
Well,
That's
we did now.
Well, yeah, it has been years ago.
It
actually.
has, yeah. But no, I love it. I love what we do. I love filming in this country. As I said, we've got some of the best crews. I've been lucky enough to travel all over the world. Of course, I like going away still, and it would be nice to do that. But shooting here on pretty much every job, no problems whatsoever. We've got great crews in London. We've got beautiful locations up north. I love our country.
Yeah. Do you work a lot in Manchester and up north?
Yeah, we do actually. Yeah.
What would you say some of the trends are in what foreign production companies look for in the UK now? Is there any trends that you've noticed that are happening? Is there more work coming in from foreign? Is there certain countries that are? That's quite a few questions in one.
Well, look, they'll come here. We've got a lot of sports and a lot of personalities in this country, sports people that cannot travel during seasons or, you know, fixtures and things like that. So these guys have, you know, global sponsors, don't they? And brands that they are ambassadors for. So we get a lot of clients coming in for that. We've also got the most incredible diverse range of cast in this country, which is second to none. So we find that sometimes if a client needs like a global campaign shooting, they'll come here because we can cast most of those countries. I mean, I've pretty much cast globally.
So just the diversity of people you can get in the UK is second to none.
It's enormous. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest.
And are they certain kind of emerging countries that are shooting more that use UK facilities?
Well, I'd like to think that Madam has really helped certain countries that wouldn't necessarily have thought that they could have afforded to shoot in the UK, because obviously it is expensive people coming here from overseas, and I like to think that we've helped them to achieve that goal because of our connections, who we know, how our experience and knowing how to make their money work for them.
And do you, because I remember you saying to me before that you always pay crew the proper rates.
Why shouldn't you?
What do you have? Do you have ways of kind of engineering like budgets for, say, smaller productions? And there's certain tricks that you'll use to kind of make things.
It's not even tricks, is it? But you know that certain locations are going to be less expensive. There are ways of filming parts of London that you think you might have been in a very expensive like location fee, but you're literally, I don't know, the other side of the road, and it's a lot less. There's ways of doing things. And keeping your crew small, obviously, not having massive crew. So yes, there are, like anything, you know, there's you can, I don't know, you can buy a really lovely suit, but it doesn't have to be Prada. It can still be.
It can still be nice and tailored,
yeah,
and not have all of the marketing that goes with.
Exactly, it might not last as long.
Yeah.
But hopefully, the commercials do. But that's the idea, not. But I mean, look, I honestly do believe that if whatever production, no matter what the budget is, the level and the standard of production that you will get from us will be the same.
One of the things I've become really interested in is I'm sort of developing a new kind of lighting strategy. Yeah, would you believe it?
That.
Would you believe it? Yeah.
No.
And it's using these little reflectors and these small lights, and it's basically a way more efficient and less. It's a different way of lighting, and it's
because the technology though of the cameras is so much superior now that you don't need the bigger.
So it comes under the kind of blanket of kind of what I call reductive cinematography. So rather than like the traditional way is big light on a cherry picker, massive amount of light through a window, and you sort of shape it down from there. Whereas this way of lighting is like an additive way of lighting. So you basically use smaller brush strokes of light, so you use smaller fixtures, and you sort of build the light up. But you start by reducing the amount down. So I use lots of nets over windows and lots of negative in the room. So I bring all the light levels down.
So you can spend lots of time putting those nets up.
There's little systems here doing it really quickly. Like
really?
Velcro is like this amazing material apparently that can do wonders. But so we have this sort of way of reducing it all down and then building up. And by reducing it down to begin with, you find that the power of lights you need is a lot less. So rather than using 18,000 watt lights on cherry pickers, we now use 1.2K lights. These special kind of parallel beam lights right outside the window with this reflector, and it produces an absolutely convincing shaft of sunlight, same as with the 18K, but a lot less cost. So there's kind of an environmental advantage to that, and clearly a cost advantage. And I noticed when I was looking at your website that you have some kind of quite nice environmental credentials.
Yeah, we're really passionate about that. All being as sustainable as we can, and every shoot day that we do, we plant a certain amount of trees, which we know, that's all being done properly. We recycle properly. Our caterers, we have, we trying to do, meat free, and we're not trying. I do put that out to the crew, because if it's a long day and it's a big job and it's cold, and I'm not going to say to people they can't necessarily have meat or something, but anyway, we are doing our best to become reducing our carbon footprint, and like even with Panelux, the gels, that you've got recyclable gels now that you can use. I mean, it is a little bit more expensive, these things, and it does cost more money to recycle properly, but the clients are good, and we are able to put those things in the budget, and people don't more people are supportive of becoming as sustainable and reducing the carbon footprint than not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things, particularly with the younger generations of filmmakers coming up now, that it's something that they really do care passionately about.
No, and they should, because we've got a duty and an obligation.
Yeah.
Because you see the big feature films, the amount of sets that get, disbanded, and the waste on set is like shocking.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, just wiping this off. I must say that there's part of me that's quite thrifty, and I don't like waste. And I must say, I find it quite shocking. I remember when I first, Sarah, going back to the beginning of my career, Sarah would allow me to come and spy on, I don't know if you remember this, but she'd allow me to come and spy on other DOPs, because I was so eager to kind of learn more. And back then, when I started out, there was no YouTube channel exploring behind the scenes or anything. We did, to get onto a film set and to see how other DOPs work, you had to get on a film set, literally. And so Sarah would have let me come along and spy on people like, do you remember Steve Blackman?
Yeah.
And some of the others. And I remember going onto one of the set, and it was Dom Seal, the gaffer there. And there was just a whole bunch of lights that just weren't being used. And I said to him, why aren't these lights being used? And he goes, well, I think he said, Steve doesn't need them, and production are too frightened to ask him if he needs them. And I remember
Not
just
on
thinking,
my watch.
Yeah, exactly. I remember thinking, wow, what a waste, and no one's doing anything about it.
Well, that's my point. So that's when I would sit you guys down and say, do you really need this list? This is what we're doing, It's just ridiculous.
What's one of the advantages I've got of sort of building my own lighting system is I didn't realise this until quite recently. Gaffers, basically, what their role to do is to protect the DOP. So what they're going to do is they're always going to order more than they need, because the last thing that they want to happen to them is for a DOP to ask for something and they don't have it. So every time I remember when I was doing lists of gaffers recently, and I'd say, let's just use that, and they'd always put like twice as much stuff in, because they don't ever want to get caught short.
Well, again, not on my watch. I just don't. I mean, I would go through that list with the DP and the gaffer as well, anyway.
Yeah.
And I'd make sure.
Yeah.
And the conversations with my gaffers and DPs. Of course, you guys talk a lot, but there is never a time when I am not involved in one or two of those conversations with you both.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're really on it, but a lot of producers, not with you, but a lot of producers, they kind of trust the judgment of the gaffer, and I get that there is going to be a bit of flexibility, but it's like lenses. Yeah.
You don't need all of those.
Yeah.
You know you don't.
Yeah. But it's just covering yourself, isn't it? There's a sort of
I know. But at the end of the day, if something comes up and you know that, or you haven't, that it isn't there, and it's not about a non-covering thing, you know that what you have got will work.
Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed since I started amassing my own equipment is that, I went for a period when I first started with my own equipment solely, without hiring other stuff in, and I was running quite close to the edge of what I knew I needed. And there was a certain kind of excitement about kind of using less and getting good results, the same results with using less. And it became the kind of thing that I'd always try and challenge myself.
That's about experimenting, isn't it? It's like when we were like filming on sound stock, don't you remember?
Yeah. Oh God.
Well, how that looked and how excited we were when we saw that, all that, like, looked so oily and amazing.
Yeah.
And then going into a telecine, and hand colouring. I mean, that's what Tony did.
Tony did a lot, yeah.
No one had done that. No one had done,
and no one.
That looked incredible.
And really, no one since, actually. When you look at, he did it on.
I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to show Dunlop, right? Because we need to show some of Tony Kaye's work.
Dunlop is incredible, but things like the British Rail, the Sleeper. For me, actually, it was the drink driving campaign that he did with I can't remember her name, Tatiana. She did a few jobs with us, but she was a bit naughty. She was only about 6 or 7, but she was a bit of a diva because she'd been in so many blooming commercials with us. And the whole commercial had been set. So it was a mum and a dad, and, they were in this house, and the dad had basically been done for drink driving, and there was a whole scene with the mum and what have you, and everyone was there, clients there, the actors are all there, and Tony just saw her on the stairs, and she'd done something. I think he was telling her off, and she started crying, and he just started filming her, and then he disappeared, gone. Clients like, where is he? I don't know. 2-day shoot, he's gone, and he locked himself in the edit suite, and he edited just her on the stairs, crying her eyes out, and it was everything else was just voiceover, with the mum screaming in the background to the dad saying, what have you done? You've ruined our lives. It was so brilliant. So brilliant. But at the time, it was like a nightmare. The client was wanting to sue him, he disappeared, no one, but when they saw the end result, it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's real kind of acute artistic awareness of what is needed.
Genius.
What's needed, right? Yeah. And just
like the Cat and the Mouse,
letting everything else
Gas,
go.
That was brilliant.
Oh yeah, I mean that's.
But he did do things that was quite, he'd just disappear on set and run off with the focus puller and the camera. And
with the dog, the Cat and the Mouse, was that just a little bit of peanut butter or something behind each ear or something? Do you know how that was done?
I can't remember actually on that one.
Yeah. Again, we'll have to show you.
I do guys the Volvo with all the kids. We did Velcro them.
You did.
Yeah, and the mums were going mad because they were all outside that cinema.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They weren't kind of let in. But he did Velcro them because obviously they were wriggling everywhere. So he Velcroed them.
Another use for Velcro, yeah.
their suit. That was a brilliant ad.
Yeah. Can we get hold of something? I mean, a lot of them will be on YouTube, won't they? Presumably.
I would imagine they all are. I mean, I sadly I don't have any. I don't have any show reel. I mean, of course, Madam's reel is there, but I don't have any of the old show reels from Wanted or Brave.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that I started trying to hunt some of my early work down.
Impossible.
It's really hard to get a lot of it now.
It's so impossible.
Yeah, it's a shame that I didn't have like a history reel somewhere with it all on.
I think we threw everything away because they're massive, great big bulky tapes.
Yeah.
People got fed up with them.
Yeah.
Big betas.
Beta SPs.
Beta SPs and new mats.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So apart from having your kids and setting up Brave, what other kind of moments of your career would you say you're most proud of?
Charity work that I've done. I mean, Big Issue was a brilliant thing to be involved with, and I'm really proud that I thought of giving that to the Big Issue.
How did that come about, actually, the whole Big Issue thing? Because that was the first time.
It's a Samaritan-y thing I think I was thinking of, and also not just that, but getting the Curzon to run it for free next to the Barclays commercial at the time.
That was such a thrill for us, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. And they ran it for, 9 weeks in the end? I think it was because, where were we thinking at the beginning? So we did it, and it wasn't, I think Sarah was thinking more of like the Samaritans or something, like a helpline. So this was a short film, wasn't it, about a guy's life, and he was all big and successful, and it was at the time when Barclays had done a big campaign about being big and successful and all things.
It's Anthony Hopkins.
Amazing.
We'll show the campaign. It's Anthony Hopkins saying.
Yeah, and it was quite vulgar because the banks, the banks were. The recession, was about to hit or had just hit, and the banks were foreclosing on lots of businesses, and it was pretty vulgar, we thought. So we did Big is Not So Beautiful, although it started Big is Beautiful, and then this guy's life was big, everything was brilliant, and he's gambling, he was making money, but he was making money through gambling, and he was gambling a bit too much, and then it started to go downhill. And at the end, he ended up on a rooftop before it went black. And we thought about a helpline for that. But then I don't know how it happened, but the Big Issue, I hate to say this, but I do think it was my idea for the Big Issue.
So
work being what am I most proud of?
Yeah.
Charity work is, of course, charity work or anything that the short films that I've helped directors with, Sarah's film Big Issue, China Mu Young, I did her first film Juvenile, I funded that as well as put that together for her, and that did well at the BFI Big Issue, that won the Soho Short Film Festival.
Awards, yeah.
It was amazing. And last year I helped a Syrian war documentary. They needed to shoot on 65mm film, and those cameras were all in this country at the time. And apparently the production company from Denmark had tried lots of people, and my name kept coming up saying if anyone can pull it off, she will. And we did, and that just won 2 Emmys, actually, that film.
Oh, wonderful.
So any of those types of projects I still feel really proud of, but also trying to help youngsters get into the industry and girls, I have to say,
But you always, when I asked you earlier why Brave Films was called Brave Films, I actually thought it's because you had a lot of female directors at the time. I didn't realise how...
I'm still passionate about that. Women in the industry, we do need more.
Yeah.
There aren't enough women in the industry. The industry is very male-dominated, and I do put my foot down to make sure that we have girls and ethnic minority kids, there just are not enough.
I had a very skewed experience of the industry because my main director for many years was Sarah Dunlop, and she was ahead of her time, really, because I remember seeing recently, looking at her reel and seeing that she'd done a Levi's campaign, which was her holy grail. She always wanted to do a Levi's campaign because back then the copywriter, art director teams were very boysy, and they would never consider...
girls were doing beauty. weren't they?
Yeah, they'd never consider a female director.
But
for
that's
something
changed.
Like that.
I mean, and we did help with that. And the same with Sue Worthy, Lucy Blackstad.
Yeah.
You know, all female directors that came through Brave.
Yeah.
And that we really pushed to get cars on their reels. You know, girls can shoot car commercials.
Yeah, as you proved. Yeah. So I actually didn't realise how bad it was. Because I was always working with... But it still is. I was always... Well, yeah, or how bad it even is now. Because I work with a lot of female directors and I work with a lot of female producers. So a lot of my experience, actually... I actually thought about it the other day, and I think I've worked with an equal amount of female directors to male directors.
Wow. That's unusual.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual.
I mean, I think there's most probably females in the production side of things. But even girls in... There aren't that many female, cameramen or...
That's changing now a lot. There's a real influx of female DOPs now.
Yeah, I have to say, still obviously they are outweighed, but it's always a joy putting up female DPs.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I think it's been helped by the technology is a lot more. There's less barriers to entry now, so I think it's more down to the artistic eye than it was before. I think before you needed to have an artistic eye, but you also needed to be kind of have a bit of kind of technical prowess as well, which I think, generally speaking, boys were less intimidated by that. And I think now what's happened is that I think you can get to the art easier now than you could before, and I think that's really been an advantage for young girls in colleges that might be like slightly intimidated away from all the technical kind of And
as you say, maybe the courses are opening it up, because I think that for young kids coming through, coming up, you don't know the amount of different departments that there are on set. They just don't know. And so maybe now, because of the courses, it's opening up to more females to think, well, actually, yes, I could go down that road and do that. I don't know whether... I don't know. It's very difficult. It was just, as I said, it's just still quite a male-dominated industry.
But I get questions from young, young female DOPs or young female filmmakers that are interested in becoming a DOP, and they'll say to me, "How much do I need to know technically about cameras?" And my answer to that is like most really experienced DOPs, when you hear them talking about their craft, they rarely talk about the camera. They talk about their attitude to life a lot of the time, or what art they're interested in, or what storytelling they like.
I think a lot back in our day, though, when I was coming up through the ranks, the DPs were coming from being clapper loaders, focus pullers, and then DPs. Yeah. I don't necessarily think that's the case now. I don't think the DPs have done those. No. Have done that journey.
That's right.
And so DPs back in the day would know, but also look, as you're saying about cameras, they change every 5 minutes. I mean, even I've stopped going down to Arri and Panavision to have a look at the latest cameras, and we used to, because they would develop once every 10 years a new camera used to come out, but now it's like every other month. It's ridiculous. You can't keep up with it.
So you don't really, as a DOP, your job isn't to keep up with the latest technology.
No,
as a
I don't
DOP,
think so.
Your job is to develop an eye.
It's your craft and your lighting and how you see it, and also the composition, and it's the lenses that are, it's like you can. Again, people can talking about going out and buying equipment. You're fine to buy your cameras, but you're not going to be able to afford the lenses, are you? Yeah. So the camera houses are still obviously a massive integral part of the industry, because it's knowing the lens. Yeah,
I mean that's where the magic happens a lot of the time. Yeah, the lighting and the lens for me. And there's a movement now.
And knowing when to use an anamorphic or not.
Yeah, I managed to rifle my way through all of the Panavision shells.
But it makes me laugh though on these days when you're doing content and it's like a 1x1. They want to shoot it on an anamorphic. Really?
Yeah, that's become a real problem now. All these social media.
But
formats.
What about? Didn't you used to have your the vintage Canons, or was that not you?
K35s.
Who was that? Used to love those vintage.
I mean I like
was
you were talking about K35.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't me. I do like K35, but I wasn't known for that. I used to use a lot of Panavision lenses.
Who used to want them all the time.
Yeah.
They're still around though. And in fact, I've been doing quite a bit on film again. So that's going back to film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot of the features, like Wonder Woman, that was all shot 65mm film.
Yeah.
I don't know,
going back to propaganda, your time at propaganda, did you ever get to work with Fincher or?
Alex Proyas was the really amazing. So Fincher. I didn't work with him, but we worked. There were projects that that I met him on. So I met all of those guys, but I was mainly in the UK. I just wasn't interested in going to LA. Yeah, I didn't want to. We had so much talent here, and remember, they were commercials still. What would you say his kind of approach? Did you work on any projects with him? Fincher, VW? I can't remember them all, to be honest. Adidas.
Right. Did he have a particular approach to things that stood out?
Yeah, he had great assistants. A lot of them.
Right.
No, he had a great eye, and he was clearly very talented. I mean, I don't know. A lot of his stuff is a lot darker than I think it needs to be. I mean, he's worked with Darius Khondji, who's amazing DP.
Yeah.
So he was great, and he worked with Proyas as well. So I did get to work with him in London, but I always thought that Fincher made his lighting a bit too dark.
Well, it's now become, you get away with darker images now more than ever, because back then when we started, you had a little 4x3 television set in a brightly lit room, and everything needed to be amped up. Yeah,
but we watched more on cinema. So I watched way more commercials on cinema screen back in those days. Yeah. I mean, you used to go, there were so many really cool. Yeah. I can't remember the last time I saw an ad before do they even play? I mean, I'm not sure. I suppose they do play them, but I don't know. I don't know. 10, 15 years ago, you used to see so many cool ads before a cinema. Yeah, film. That's
the best possible audience.
I don't see them these days. I don't know where they run them, but just the ones you see on cinema aren't that great.
Yeah, but nowadays you can get away, in terms of cinematography, you can get away with being darker, because most people's viewing experience when they're watching television, for example, is on a big, widescreen television in a darker room. Then, that kind of assumption before was that you've got to make it seen for everyone to see it in any condition, so everything has to be
but that's
bright
what used to actually drive me mad though, because we used to be sitting in an edit suite with really amazing monitors, and you guys would be fiddling around with them to make it look good on that monitor, but I was like, exactly, it's not gonna
translate.
It never did.
I guess you could argue that now with laptops, couldn't you? You could say that most people look at stuff on their phones and their laptops, so there's always going to be that problem of how it translates to various environments. But I think, generally speaking, commercials now are kind of allowed to be more cinematic, because the language of what people expect from a commercial has changed over the years.
I think they were always pretty cinematic. I mean, look, back in the day, that's how all these boys got their feature show reels, through their commercials and actually music videos, which we haven't touched on. But God, we worked on some massive music videos with huge budgets. I mean, they don't exist anymore. All those big Meatloaf ones, that was like Michael Bay's, gateway into feature films. Bat Out of Hell and all those ones. He did the what was the the Spielberg kind of rip off, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. He did a Meatloaf video kind of like that, and they were all big trailers. Yeah. I mean, nowadays, features.
like $5,000 is seen as a big budget for a music
we were
video.
like $1 million plus. Easily.
Yeah. Do you miss that period of because that was a lot of fun. Music videos were always a lot of fun.
Yeah, only because they were like incredible, like the George Michael Supermodels one. That Finch did that one here because he came over to do Alien, the second one after
Ridley Scott.
So he was working on that one. So that Supermodels one is amazing. And the but Howard did some big music videos as well. All those Pet Shop Boys videos he did. They were incredible. The George Michael ones, all the ones that Vaughan did, they were amazing.
Yeah.
That's Vaughan Arnell, so I can't, I don't know how to introduce directors, but yeah.
What do you mean you don't know how to introduce?
Well,
directors?
I was, to
to
tell
say
them who
Vaughan
they
Arnell.
are.
Yeah, so
Explain.
what we'll do.
So you have to do that afterwards or something. I can't.
Well, could talk. Who's Vaughan
Well,
Arnell?
I didn't work with Vaughan, but Vaughan was around. Obviously, he was, a big director in the day. A guy called Vaughan Arnell. That you had Frank Budgeon, one of my favourite directors still ever to this day. I mean, what an incredible talent.
I totally agree with you.
Oh my God, I loved him. So when you're talking about someone that can look at something and then develop it in their own way, he was a god.
Yeah.
He was a god.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There was something so organic about every single thing he did. It was just so beautifully shot. So if any young person is listening to this and they want to see some inspiration, go and have a look at Frank Budgeon's work.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Frank Budgeon's work defined that whole period of. I thought it was, for me,
Never got to do a feature.
It was Tony Kaye for one period, and then it was Frank Budgeon for me.
Yeah, long time.
And then
incredible, and they're all ex-agency boys.
Yeah, I mean Frank Budgeon, because when we spoke to Steve, we were talking about the rigor of an idea, and he said that basically you'd have a stack of scripts. And if you can get a smile out of Frank Budgeon, it will be an award winner. And he goes every time it was the same.
He was just just magic.
He had it in his DNA, didn't he?
In his DNA.
Yeah. I mean, if people say that filmmakers, in the world of commercials aren't artists, then I just cite Frank Budgeon.
And also, he was such a quiet guy. I mean, I never got to work with him, but I knew him really well, and he was always so quiet and really understated, but would always get his way. He would just do it his way, and he was brilliant. Yeah, he's got one of the best show reels ever, actually. And that's up against someone like, Chris Palmer, who was brilliant.
I was just about to say Chris Palmer.
So Chris was brilliant as well with, and he was back in the day a creative with Mark Denton when we did the Nike Kick It with Tony. That's another brilliant ad.
Yeah, well, that's another one we'll
so yeah, Nike Kick It, I would definitely say. The Volvo Babies, Dunlop, the drink driving campaign for me, as I said, is still brilliant. The British Gas, the cat, the mouse, and the dog, yeah. And then the Sleeper, actually, the British Rail.
British Rail one, yeah. The Sleeper, isn't that the one that got him his kind of stardom? Was that the one that shot him to fame? Because didn't he overshoot on that or something?
No, he would have overshoot on every job, but and I guess he got a lot of flack because he did used to shoot a lot of film. But he if it went over, he would pay for it.
And the results justified that process.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Those ads were brilliant.
So the Chris Palmer showreel, for me, has always been, I think it's the best director showreel I've ever seen, because what he demonstrated in the showreel I saw, this is back kind of the latter years of Gorgeous, he had every genre of commercial on his showreel, and every genre of commercial he'd done perfectly.
But he was a brilliant creative as well, and also Frank was a massive inspiration to him. I mean, they were very close, those two.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Really close.
Yeah.
And I loved the way they respected each other's work. But they have a different take on things, because Chris is brilliant as well, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And he is a brilliant director. But it's interesting because they didn't, jump into feature films necessarily. But
why was that, do you think?
It's a very different genre. It's massively different doing features to commercials.
Yeah.
And just because you're good at one does not mean to say that you're going to be good at another one.
A lot of people fail at that transition, don't they, unfortunately? Yeah. I mean, I think the most successful one in my kind of the generation I'm familiar with is probably Jonathan Glazer, who I think and obviously Fincher and Michael Bay. Actually, from American, I'd say Fincher's definitely the most successful.
Fincher and obviously
Ridley
our
Scott
massive,
and Alan Parker and all of those from
massive export in Mr. Scott, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, actually. So from cinema, getting a feature film off the ground and onto cinema, when the likes of Netflix and Amazon came along and then producing these amazing TV either shows or TV films, and like the likes of Soderbergh getting involved, or David Fincher getting involved with, I think The Crown, not The Crown, sorry, the House of Cards was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, and that was huge, and that was Netflix. That was one of their first things, wasn't it? Because I think they did actually even try and sell it to the studios, but they couldn't film a pilot for it because it was just too complicated. And that was one of Netflix's first shows, if not the first show. So those platforms have changed how we can see things, and the amount of stuff that's being produced as well. You know, it's incredible. So, you know, the amount of shows on Netflix and Amazon, I mean, it's a little bit of a shame because when Netflix first started, you knew that everything on there was so good. Now you do feel like you're wading through things to find something that's that is pretty epic. But for me, the things that, there have been some great shows. I thought The Queen's Gambit was unbelievable. I loved it. And then I documentaries. There's been some brilliant documentaries that I think have been really well told. And I think that it is really good that we are able to see more programs that are honestly showing injustices around the world, and I think they need to be seen and watched, no matter how depressing it might be. Sometimes I feel it's my duty to hear these stories. Yeah,
when they're done in a powerful way, then they're entertainment, and that's how it should work. You should be something that you're interested in seeing, and then it leaves that effect of.
I mean, like I was saying before on the documentary, we were lucky enough to be involved in The Cave, which was the Syrian, another Syrian story, but it's heartbreaking, but it was amazing. It is amazing that these stories are getting out there, and they do have a platform and that they can be seen,
and they've got a bigger audience now. You know, the first few films that came, what was the ones that had feature releases like Man on Wire, films like that, they changed the whole game for documentary. Now people see documentary as being a theatrical released commodity.
I mean, I do think it's a shame still that we feel that we have to rely on the big films to be released, like during lockdown, them not putting out the James Bonds and the big movies, but and having the trust in audiences that people will make an effort and go to the cinema and see things, and that we don't have to just rely on the big blockbusters. People will go and watch independents as well, and that you don't have to rely on having these big blockbusters in one of your screens to get people in.
I mean, I personally love 70s cinema, and the thing I love the most about 70s cinema, it's the only period of cinema that I'm familiar with that had really big budget films that were basically independent, sort of quite risky, edgy ideas that were made. It's the perfect. I was watching A Deer Hunter the other day, and it's like the perfect blend of a big budget film and an art movie. I mean, it was just you watch it, and there's aspects of it, the scenes in Philadelphia that go on and on and on, and you think there's no way that would happen now. You'd either have a lot of money injected into a project and it would have to hit certain points at certain moments, or it would be an art movie. To have it combined as one thing is.
I mean, that's really weird you say that, because I watched the other day, which had no money, which was La Haine.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
How genius.
Yeah.
I don't even think I realised how good it was
back when you first saw it. Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of these films are worth a rewatch. I mean,
definitely. And also, I think that I am impressed with the age of, like, my daughter's 21 now, and the boys are 17 and 18, but they will watch those films, and they are interested.
So I try and say to James and the other people the other young people we work with is that there's a whole history of cinema that you need to get familiar with. So certain films,
of course, but I would imagine that you would be naturally interested in seeing those films anyway, because they're just classics, aren't they? And there is a whole catalogue of classic films where if you're talking to other filmmakers, they're going to reference
Yeah.
either those directors or those DPs at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the amount of work and the scope of work that, say, the Coen brothers have done, or,
Yeah.
or Roger Deakins, or, it's just so enormous.
Yeah, I mean that really is one of the things I remember when I first worked with Sarah. The thing that we both clicked with immediately.
You didn't stop talking about it.
We just loved cinema. We both loved cinema, and we loved a certain period of cinema as well. And we could really relate to each other. It was almost for me, the seduction with working with a new director is finding like-minded films.
Your common ground.
Your common ground. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would imagine that is still alive today. I mean, I don't know, because I'm not in the classrooms, and I don't know how it's taught, and I'm not seeing kids coming out through universities and coming into a company like a Brave or a Madam as a traditional production company, which we would have done. We would have found kids from universities and got them in and developed them and helped them develop.
Let's talk a little bit about that process. I mean, you were saying earlier that it's hard to kind of get the essence of what it is that attracts you to them, but it's something to do with passion and a commitment.
But I remember I don't have that kind of company now. We don't have that infrastructure at Madam in order to have somebody come through and work as an assistant and build them up into a director, if that indeed is.
But you can talk about
the
process you did, because you were very nurturing when you started.
Absolutely,
with Brave.
I can, yeah.
So what was the process for you when you had someone like Sarah or Lucy or?
Well, there's one coming in from like film school, but the boys, all three boys. So there's Seb, Hallie, and Sam.
Sam, yeah.
So Sam is now an amazing editor, and he knew he.
Well, speaking of
they all came through Brave.
Yeah, speaking of long form documentary.
Hallie.
Sam was didn't he do Whitney recently?
I don't. Well, as an editor, maybe I haven't seen those guys for ages, but but I know Sam edited, so he might have. What for Kevin
McDonald.
Kevin McDonald shot it. Sam would have edited it then.
Sam edited. Yeah,
brilliant. And Hallie was the one that really, if I don't know, you can't compare. They've all done so well, but Hallie has ended up in features. So he's he went into production. So he became a production manager, coordinator. I mean, he's done a lot with Stephen Frears.
Right.
But he's worked on Batman. He's done big, movies.
Yeah.
And then Seb is brilliant. And I do love his work. And I can kind of tell if I see a commercial, if it's been done by him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd say, going back to the that conversation we were having earlier about someone having the kind of rigor and the passion and the drive. And
he absolutely did. And he was intelligent. He knew, he was focused, he was intelligent. He was brilliant with people. He assisted directors. I remember, he was really interested and loved working with Alex Winter. I mean, but he worked with lots of the directors across the board at Brave. And then he went to film school in New York. So he did go off and he did a course, and I just knew he got it. Yeah. So the first commercial I found for him, well, there were two actually back to back. I think we did like a Sony PlayStation, which won him the Young Directors Award down in Cannes, and that was a script from a couple of creatives who I knew in TBWA at the time, and I went in and I was talking to him about did they have any bottom drawer?
Yeah.
We used to call them bottom drawer scripts.
Yeah.
And it was a Sony PlayStation with a fire brigade.
Yeah.
And I just knew he could pull it off. And the other one, actually, which we did at the same time, it was a poster that I saw that I knew would make into a great ad, which was picking up litter. It was a
the
litter.
Ferry.
The Ferry, yeah.
Yeah. I shot that with him.
And that was the chewing gum.
Yeah.
It was my idea, the chewing gum with the Ferry.
Well, that it's interesting you say that, because that chewing gum shot so we were cutting a reel the other day, and we included that chewing gum shot.
I don't know what made me think about it, because gum, I know what it was. I hate chewing gum. I hate it with a passion, and it's all over the streets, and I hate it. And so I thought the Ferry could pull up.
It's the best shot in there. It really is. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was Euro RSCG. So Ollie Capon had done the poster for it.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in his office talking about something, looking at him and said, that would make a great ad.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, you were right. I thought it was brilliant. I still think it's great now.
Yeah, and I think he did a great job on it, and it was
really
a great
did.
job.
Yeah.
So they were his first 2 commercials, and then that was it. He was off and running. And I knew that I could put him in any situation and the clients would love him.
Yeah. I mean, he
had a maturity about him.
Yeah, he really did.
And he still has.
Yeah.
No, I'm very proud of him, and I don't see them at all really now. But if I did at any point in time bump into any of them, we would have a really good conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try and invite him on this podcast.
Oh, you should do.
Yeah, I think he'd be really
good.
good.
I mean, I'm sure he's so busy, he just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But if you do, send him my love.
Yeah, I absolutely will do. Yeah. I think he did a series of ads. I'm trying to remember what they were now, with something with a car, and I remember seeing they were very, very simple little ads, and he'd done them, and I remember looking at them, and I remember something Steve Hudson said to me: the way you judge a commercial is you look at it and you say, could you imagine it being done any better, a different way? And at every time I've seen a Seb ad since that point onwards, I look at it and I think, I can't imagine anyone doing it better.
Well, that's interesting. But for me, and I do think Seb is brilliant, but for me, that's Frank Budgeon.
Right, yeah.
Only. He is literally, and those boys are up there. And actually, yeah, on that point, I remember seeing Johnny Glazer's reel when he was coming out of film school. And he had this mad film with this guy in a swimming pool, and he had this black cap on. And then these black balls were coming out of his mouth. And I said, I was at propaganda at the time, and I said, you should sign this dude. He's going to fly. And they didn't. Lizzie got him.
All right.
But for me, his commercials were mind blowing. But I think most probably, him and Frank. Frank was just at another level. I can't explain it. There's just an edge that guy had on his work that was so beautiful and organic and innovative and clever in a way that no one else has touched.
Yeah.
I mean, his Sony, the Sony PlayStation one that he did with the guy on the... it's just... Every shot is brilliant.
The guy on... What one's that? The guy on...
When the guy's sitting on the bed... talking at the beginning, and then it goes through the kids on the skateboards, and
it was a speech. Just
amazing.
Yeah, the ones I really like is. Do you remember his tag, Nike tag campaign?
Yeah.
And he did one called Shadow Runner as well. Not many people have seen it. It wasn't that well known, but it was just. I thought it was the essence of good storytelling refined down to
just had it on every level.
It's the efficiency of the way he chose his shots, the way he got performances, the way he cast everything.
But
the efficiency
all of his commercials were like that, and there was always someone in there watching. There was always a shot of someone standing on the side of the street or wherever it was, just observing it.
Yeah, that's true. He did that in Twister as well, didn't he? Had
all of them.
The black kid with
running bunnies, everyone.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that's a good point actually.
There's always someone watching.
Yeah, someone watching. Yeah, so for young filmmakers, young filmmakers coming up, advice for young filmmakers. What would you say? What advice would you give them?
It's so hard, isn't it? Because what is one saying when one is saying a filmmaker? Are you wanting to be a director or a DP? Or these days, some. Well, that's
some
the
thing.
Are doing both.
That's the thing. Most people that we associate with now, the younger generation, see themselves as filmmakers, not necessarily as DOPs or as directors, and they start off as a filmmaker doing a bit of everything.
I mean, it's very difficult because as I said, I don't have a company in where I can get people to come in as trainees and assisting directors and learning a craft through working and watching other directors at work. And if it was a pure DP role, I would seriously say to make sure that but again, we've talked about this. They don't go through the ranks of being a loader. Yeah, so they
don't have set experience as such.
No,
do they?
And those guys did back in the day because they would be talking, as you know, to the camera houses. So they would be talking to Panavision or Take Two or Arri, and those technicians in those camera houses who are dealing with all of the camera equipment every day, and they have a good relationship with the DPs. They can help and kind of put their names out there so that was one way, and I don't know if that is relevant these days. In terms of now filmmakers and coming up and wanting to do, are they wanting to do like commercials or content? I mean, it's so different, isn't it?
There's most of them do content now, and they want to move into a more professional production. Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's teaming up with other good people, because you can't do everything yourself. And if you start making films for clients direct, and you've got a budget of say 5 or 10 grand, that's great. And people will trust you with that, but they're not going to necessarily trust you with a 50 grand budget or a 100 grand budget. They're very different, aren't they? It's a very different skill set, commanding and organising and dealing with that amount of money. And I see that with producers. So young producers within say an agency and their own in-house production department within an agency, they can deal with budgets up to a certain amount. But when it gets a lot bigger, they need to farm it out to traditional production companies, or like a facilitating company with a freelance director to be able to put that together for them. Because the skill sets are different. It is very different. Having as I said, a 5 or a 10 grand budget and putting a little film together with that, than it is dealing with someone's budget of 250 grand. That's a lot of money that you're dealing with for a client, and all of the other responsibilities that come with putting that kind of a film together.
So I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think there is a real sadness that we don't have this sort of mentorship, this kind of this coming through the ranks of a professional film production, because you're right, it's a completely different game having a 5-10 grand budget and doing something as a single shoot, or having a small crew, as to having a professional film production and having all the different stages of production that you need to protect that investment properly.
Like Madam have got Little Madam, for instance, where by the smaller jobs I put on a slightly different hat in the way that I'm even budgeting it. We even have a different budget specifically for the smaller little jobs, and how you then, and the crew that you do, not that those crew wouldn't work on a full blown commercial with you, but it's how you brief them in terms of, look, we're shooting it in this way. It's more of a little content piece, or it's a documentary like we're doing now. So you have a smaller crew with you, and therefore you can, like we were saying about people's rates, people need to get paid appropriately, and why should people do deals? But those rates are set for a very specific TV commercial that's going out on air, and those rates have a minimum and a maximum range. And I feel that as a producer, I'm well within my rights to talk to my crew and say, look, this is a small content piece that isn't going on air, or it's someone's website, and as such, we can't command the highest maximum rate for this. We'll do it at the lowest, so that you can make those budgets work, but you're still getting good experienced crew, or you're able to help people coming through the ranks by explaining to your client, it's still going to look great, but I'm using these crew for this reason, not these crew. So I could support a young filmmaker, if that's what you want to call them, who's got his Sony FS7 and a few lights. If I've seen a reel and I believe that he can cope with that level of work at that time. So really, kind of advice to young filmmakers would be, the advice I tend to give is think of your career as a dual approach. One is developing your own voice as a director, or your own eye as a DOP, and doing your own projects. So it's important to kind of do creative short films, whatever it is you can get your hands on, shooting yourself. And the other aspect of your career should be trying to get onto professional film productions on whatever grade you can get on, to understand how it's... No, you should, because also, like as I was saying before, with like selling you in as a young up and coming DP, that's one thing, because you've got an experienced producer with you and an experienced director potentially, but with filmmakers, you're asking them to do multi roles. They're operating, they're potentially lighting, and you're asking them to direct something. Well, that's a big ask, and you've got to really know that person is really confident that they can. I'm not saying people can't do that. It was like we were saying, the freelance director that I've been working with. I mean, he is experienced now, but there was a stage where he was less experienced, but you just know that he would have the confidence and the ability to be able to communicate with potentially a client, even as I said, if it's we're not talking about big budget TV commercials, a little content film that I would trust that person to be able to talk with that client, with alongside myself, obviously, who is experienced, and I'm taking the
kind
brief
of guiding
from
it.
and I'm going like at the moment I'm working with a creative director that I've worked with before in America, and he's coming up with an idea and he wants to direct it. Now I know that he's got the ability to do that, but I know that he's also leaning on me in terms of a bit of creativity and bringing his idea to life and collaborating with the right cameraman in order to do that for him.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not saying it very well, but I just know the situations where I can put people into a certain position and know that and feel confident that they can manage it because I'm there as well, and I know that the client understands the level of where they are.
Yeah.
For that range of that budget. Yeah. And I explain that beforehand.
So what predictions do you have for the future of our industry?
Wow. I think production companies, even though I think for a long time advertising agencies thought that they'd be able to get rid of production companies and that they'd be able to just get talent to come in and work
direct with them.
I think more production companies will see themselves working directly with clients more, most probably. And
so will production companies become agencies as well?
I don't think so. I don't think that they would want to do that. I think that whole point would slow it down. I think that the whole way of and the whole scene of filmmakers coming into the world is that they can turn around things quite quickly. So the more that you're encumbered with turning production companies into agencies is just slowing your process down. I just don't believe that and also there are clients out there that they don't need masses of money in order to be able to buy media on TV, which is very expensive. They can still make really good standard of film and put them on the internet, and they can go to very creative production companies for one-off projects. So I don't think that production companies would need to turn themselves into an agency. So I think that your work is already, I mean, we've been talking about this change in the industry for over 10 years. And then now it is happening. And I think that there are production companies that are working directly with clients or, and doing one-off projects. I'm not saying that agencies are all of a sudden going to disappear overnight, but I think that the amount of money potentially that clients are now paying agencies as retainers is, possibly being questioned. And and the fact that your reach of media is so much wider these days, and as you've said, people are watching on their computers, so and there are ads everywhere, aren't there? I mean, what I've noticed in the industry is that certainly with DOPs, I mean, remember when I started, there was maybe 30 DOPs working in London, on a list that were getting the majority of kind of high-end commercial work, and now it's probably 7,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, my worry with it is it's an overload of moving images. I mean, you just see moving images everywhere, and that for me is really sad. You know, the wow factor that's taken out, where kids can just watch stuff anywhere, 24/7, and that's a shame. I think, you know, and that's why I will always be really pro having my kids go and watch a film on the cinema where it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and
in that format,
and things like this podcast. You know, there's been a huge movement now towards longer, deeper conversation. You know, forms of kind of delving into something. You know, like, I guess, like, you could argue the whole kind of sort of new age of television drama of kind of it's more like a novel. You sort of you kind of getting acquainted with characters and you're going on a longer journey with them. And you know, like people were saying when the podcast first started airing on YouTube, people were saying, well, the younger generation will not be interested. You won't be able to hold their attention. And yet people like Joe Rogan has just sold to Spotify, and you know, it's become, you know, like, podcast has become the new kind of cool format in a way.
I mean, I think that there is an argument of maybe even going back to basics and about, as I said, it's a direct form of communication and it's conversation. Yeah. Isn't it? And it's I don't know, and respecting a craft. You know, just because there's loads of content out there doesn't mean to say it's any good.
Yeah. And so I think that the need now for having sort of taste antennas, or, you know, or having kind of filters like a DJ would with music. You know, it's like you find your favourite DJs because there's so much music out there. You find a DJ that you kind of like.
Yeah, and also, look, there is an argument if you're really into something that you want to see more. So there's this binge watching. So as I was saying, like, you know, with certain shows on Netflix now that you can, if you want to, watch the whole lot. You know, you just get sucked into it, and especially obviously in lockdown, there's been nothing else to do.
There's been a huge amount of consumption.
Spend your time well, and I would prefer to watch one really brilliant film. I don't know, with the amount of TV shows on, and most of them are absolute rubbish. I'd prefer to go and watch Jojo Rabbit for the millionth time. Yeah,
that's a great movie. Yeah, I mean, I've been going back in time.
Oh, again and again.
Yeah,
drives kids mad. Anyway. Yeah. But also some good shows out there. There are, you know, there is still some brilliant shows being written.
Yeah. Have you seen Dave?
No.
Dave is it's good. Yeah, I recommend Dave on iPlayer at the moment.
Did I say Queen's Gambit?
Oh, again. Queen's Gambit, yeah. That's that's been
brilliant.
So highly recommended to me by people I really respect.
Every level.
Yeah.
So the lighting, but I loved Big Little Lies. I thought the lighting was beautiful. It was edited beautifully. It was written brilliantly. It was acted brilliantly. The kids were brilliant. The wardrobe, the styling, everything. It was just like a dream.
What film? What's this show?
Big Little Lies.
Has anyone seen that?
Reese Witherspoon and.
Right.
So it was written. They wrote it basically to be able to write roles for, you know, women in, you know, their age, mid kind of 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
You know, not getting any decent parts.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to check that out. Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies, yeah, and Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit, definitely is on my list. It's
brilliant.